Krsna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna, welcome. We are here with our Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labangalatika. And our channel, we call it Bhagavad-gita. Here it is, because that's what we have. We have Bhagavad-gita. We are in the 6th chapter now, somewhere in the middle, called Dhyana Yoga, which means the yoga of meditation, which is one of the processes for yoga. And I'm stressing again that this is not the process Krishna is actually recommending, but it's one of the processes in the Vedas. So he is explaining it and describing it to Arjuna very thoroughly. I'm reading text 20 to 23. They're all together here, so there's will be a chunk of Sanskrit now. Sukhamatyantikam yattad buddhigrayam atindriyam vetiyatra nachaivam yang stitas chalati tatvataha yang labdhava chaparang labhang manyate nadhikang tataha yasmin sthito nadukhena guruna pi vichalyate tang vidyat dhukka sangyoga viyogang yoga sangitam. In the stage of perfection called trance or samadhi, one's mind is completely restrained from material mental activities by the practice of yoga. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of great difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. Purport. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the supersoul through transcendental mind and intelligence, without any of the misgivings or of identifying the self with the superself. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of the Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the supersoul, and the monists think this to be liberation, but they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system, but the monists do not accept this transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. The duality of knowledge and knower is not accepted by the non-dualist, but in this verse, transcendental pleasure, realized through transcendental senses, is accepted. And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system. The great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras 434, Purushartha shunyanang gunanang pratiprasava kaivalyang svarupa pratishta vachitti shaktiriti. This chitti shakti, or internal potency, is transcendental. Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and, at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. This so-called oneness with the Supreme is called Kaivalyam by the monist, but according to Patanjali, this Kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affairs is called Chetodarpanamarjanam, or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation, or Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Yes. This is quite a jump from the previous verses where we hear a lot about the process of yoga, how it is meant to control the mind and the senses, how the perfection of yoga is to achieve a mind that is still like a lamp in a windless place. And then, like we hear here, many of the impersonalists take it to mean that the goal is to become kind of nothing, kind of merging with everything, kind of stuck in that stillness. But here we actually find that a yogi who has realized that perfection of trance samadhi, where the mind is restrained from material mental activities, then one is able to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. So we didn't see that one coming. By all this struggle and hard work and control of the senses, one finds that natural joyous place. And Prabhupada goes on to comment that based on the Patanjali system, the purpose of this yoga system is to connect with the super soul in a personal way. So yes, it's a harsh process, it's a difficult process, and it's a process that demands a lot from the practitioner to be able to control the mind and senses. But the end result is to find that, the natural inner personal joy. And then we hear how Lord Chaitanya is speaking about Chetudarpanamadyanam, which means this purification, the mirror of the mind. The mind is now covered with so much dust, actually. It's like a mirror is covered by dust. You can still see something, but it's very indistinct. And when you clear the dust away, you can actually see yourself as a person. And that's what happens in the process of yoga, on the one hand. And Lord Chaitanya is, of course, in his Shikshashtakam, where this verse is taken from, in his written instructions that he left when he was here 500 years ago. It begins with that, Chetudarpanamadyanam, the chanting of the holy name, is able to clear the mirror of the mind, so we can be put again in contact with who we really are, and with who we really are connected to, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's a very personal and a very joyous thing. No matter how severe the yoga practice may seem, the end result and the goal is that blissful connection with the Supreme. The theory of nirvana, also preliminary, corresponds with this principle. In Bhagavad-gita, in the Bhagavatam 2.10.6, this is called Svarupena Vivastiti. The Bhagavad-gita also confirms the situation in this verse. After nirvana, or material cessation, there is the manifestation of spiritual activities or devotional service to the Lord, known as Krishna consciousness. In the words of the Bhagavatam, Svarupena Vivastiti, this is the real life of the living entity. Maya, or illusion, is the condition of spiritual life contaminated by material infection. Liberation from this material infection does not mean destruction of the original eternal position of the living entity. Patanjali also accepts this by his words, Kaivalyam Svarupa Pratishta Va Chitti Shakti Iti. This Chitti Shakti, or transcendental pleasure, is real life. This is confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra 1.1.12 as Anandamaya Bhyasat. This natural transcendental pleasure is the ultimate goal of yoga and is easily achieved by execution of devotional service or bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga will be vividly described in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita. So we're speaking here of nirvana, and nirvana is sometimes described as what happens when we are no longer covered by illusion. But actually nirvana is just a stage. Nir means not, or it's a negation, and vana means forest. So in a sense it means we get out of the entanglement of the forest of this material existence. But then we don't just stay, the goal is not to be free from this world. The goal is to see what is beyond this world. Like whatever... I can't think of anything really on top of my head. But if we have some annoying situation, like say, I'm all about the driving. We're driving home after work and everybody else is also driving home after work. So we're kind of stuck in this traffic jam and we hardly move and we sit there and we get our legs get tired from the constant changing of the gears and all of that. And then finally we can move smoothly. Then it doesn't mean we'll just, we're just happy we're out of the traffic jam, and we'll just, go park on the side of the road in peaceful solitude. No, then we go home to our family, to our friends, to our activities. So in this material world also, we're entangled here. This world is like a forest, and we can't see our way out of it. And then by taking to a yoga process, preferably Krishna consciousness in this time and age, but all the yoga processes have the same goal, to get out of the entanglement of the material world. And then we are invited into our real position in the spiritual world. We are not we're not just satisfied being free from the difficulties. We want to be situated in an actual position as an individual, as a person in connection with Krishna. In the yoga system as described in this chapter, there are two kinds of samadhi called sampragyata samadhi and asampragyata samadhi. When one becomes situated in the transcendental position by various philosophical researches, he is said to have achieved sampragyata samadhi. In the asampragyata samadhi, there is no longer any connection with mundane pleasure, for one is then transcendental to all sorts of happiness derived from the senses. When the yogi is once situated in that transcendental position, he is never shaken from it. Unless the yogi is able to reach this position, he is unsuccessful. Today's so-called yoga practice, which involves various sense pleasures, is contradictory. A yogi indulging in sex and intoxication is a mockery. Even those yogis who are attracted by the siddhis, perfections, in the process of yoga are not perfectly situated. If yogis are attracted by the byproducts of yoga, then they cannot attain the stage of perfection as is stated in this verse. Persons therefore indulging in the make-show practice of gymnastic feats or siddhis should know that the aim of yoga is lost in that way. So they should know, and now we know, because we're reading Bhagavad-gita and Krishna is describing it and Prabhupada is making it very, very clear. Yoga is a powerful practice, and it's described here. One has to be able to control the mind and senses and practice in different ways. But not in order to just cut oneself off from the material world, and particularly not in order to make some kind of show and become rich and famous and have access to a lot of sex life. That's really, really not what yoga is all about. But the goal of yoga, of all the yogas, is to wake up to one's own eternal, individual, spiritual nature as an eternal spirit soul, servant of Krishna. And that happens when we connect to Krishna. So yoga means connecting, but the different yoga processes, the process of getting there are different. Karma yoga, jnana yoga, jnana yoga, the processes are different. The end result means it prepares us by disconnecting us from the distractions of this material existence. It prepares us to come to the real realization of our spiritual nature, which is always personal, which always is connected to the Supreme. The best practice of yoga in this age is Krishna consciousness, which is not baffling. A Krishna conscious person is so happy in his occupation that he does not aspire after any other happiness. There are many impediments, especially in this age of hypocrisy, to practicing Hatha Yoga, Dhyana Yoga or Jnana Yoga. But there is no such problem in executing Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. As long as the material body exists, one has to meet the demands of the body, namely eating, sleeping, defending and mating. But a person who is in pure Bhakti Yoga or in Krishna consciousness does not arouse the senses while meeting the demands of the body. Rather, he accepts the bare necessities of life, making the best use of a bad bargain, and enjoys transcendental happiness in Krishna consciousness. He is callous towards incidental occurrences such as accidents, disease, scarcity, and even the death of a most dear relative, but he is always alert to execute his duties in Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga. Accidents never deviate him from his duty. As stated in the Bhagavad-gita 2.14, Agama paino nityastang sitikshasva bharata. He endures all such incidental occurrences because he knows that they come and go and do not affect his duties. In this way, he achieves the highest perfection in yoga practice. So yes, if you want to do yoga, why not aim for the highest perfection of yoga in yoga practice? Otherwise we could just do something else. So here we get a very, very good view, because, of course, we are practicing Krishna consciousness, we are practicing Bhakti Yoga, we don't necessarily delve very deeply into this yoga practice. But here Prabhupada, and also, of course, the previous acharyas, are understanding the position of yoga. What is yoga and what is not yoga? And if we want to do that, achieve perfection in yoga, then we have to know what yoga means. So yoga does mean connecting with the Supreme in our own spiritual nature, and he's callous towards incidental occurrences. It says a transcendentalist, it doesn't mean a transcendentalist is cold, in the friendships and the families and, caring about people. It just means that he's realistic, because all these things will happen. And even if we are, we're having some difficulties, or even we're having a loved one die, we may naturally be affected and feel sad about missing that person, but it doesn't really change reality. It doesn't change the fact that if we can actually manage to connect fully to Krishna on a spiritual platform in this life, this will benefit us greatly. It will also benefit everyone who comes in contact with us. So if we actually really care about the people we love, then we don't want to let them distract us from our spiritual goals in life. We want to, connect them, bring them with us, but, not everyone is interested. But at least we don't want to be sidetracked by anything else. And that's the nice thing with Krishna consciousness, that we can bring most things with us. We can bring in our friends and our family and our life and our work and our, especially our cooking for Krishna. We can bring that into our Krishna consciousness. And in this way, we are able to connect to such a perfection that is actually quite impressive in such a simple way. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So I want to point out that under the film there is a little text box where I have links for if you want to acquire your own Bhagavad-gita. If you want to come and visit, you can find addresses to Hare Krishna temples. And I encourage you to, if you have a question or a comment, please leave it there and I can come back to it and answer it. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.